The Dacia Spring is Europe's cheapest electric car. It's about to be sold in the UK as well. It will become the UK's cheapest electric car, but it's not just cheap, it's insanely cheap. In fact, I don't believe that there is an equivalent internal combustion engine vehicle of this quality for this price in Europe today. There might be in Russia, but not in Germany, where you can buy the Dacia Spring now for 12,000 euros. I mean, maybe Tony Sieber's insane prediction, which I've seen hundreds of people say was wrong, was ridiculous, was just overly optimistic. He was just being, crazy positive, and that's never going to happen. But it looks like it actually could happen. On the same day that Honda said it is impossible for it to sell affordable electric cars until there's some sort of major technological change, Dacia has reduced the price of its electric car in Europe to less than $14,000. This is such an unbelievable deal, guys. Here's what you need to know. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to see you. I'm just back out of the hospital. Was there just overnight here in Newcastle. I had a bit of a weird experience where I was actually doing some training on my bike. I using Zwift and using one of those stationary bikes connected to Zwift, which is pretty cool because it goes up and down depending on your gradient. You can turn and all this stuff. I love using it. Trying to exercise on it every day. I'm trying to exercise 3 times a day because I've had massive history of heart disease in my family. My grandfather, he died when my mum was 7, so he was 41, I think. My uncle, so his son died when he was, I believe, 41 or 42. My dad had a heart attack a few years ago, actually died, and they brought him back to life. And then my grandfather on the other side, he had a triple bypass. So heart disease is just a big problem here. And my heart started going a bit crazy. It wouldn't slow down for 20 hours. My heart rate wouldn't come down. I had to go to the hospital, and they did a bunch of checks, and everything seems to be kind of okay. Anyhow, the Dacia Spring starts at 12,750 euros. That's just under 14,000 US dollars. Now, the US dollar was on par with the euro not that long ago for quite a while. So that would, if it had have stayed that way, it would have been 12,750 US dollars for the Dacia Spring. This is the cheapest electric car you can buy in Europe. And it's not junk. I mean, it's actually a pretty good car. One issue though there is, which is it's manufactured in China. So if you want to buy one of these in France, it doesn't qualify for subsidies. They're sort of penalizing them there in France, but it's still really popular. I mean, have a look at this car. It's not some sort of micro EV. It's a legit sized electric car. One of the big hurdles people say for mass EV adoption is they cost more money. And they do if you're buying from a legacy automaker. I mean, if you're buying something like a Tesla Model Y now, I don't think there's really any difference in price between one of those and a similarly specified internal combustion engine vehicle in most places. But looking at something like, say, a Volkswagen ID3, yeah, they're way more expensive. They're way more expensive. You're looking at 40,000 euros. I mean, you could buy nearly, what? You could get nearly 3.5 of these Dacia Springs. It's the same size as an ID3. That is ridiculous. Shows you how incredibly overpriced the ID3 is. Now, Volkswagen have just reduced the price of the ID3 in Europe within the last week because of slow sales. Their order bank has disappeared. But they said they had enough orders for more than 12 months of pre-orders, and that just changed because people are like, well, it's too expensive. Especially when they saw the price for the ID3 in China. In China, Volkswagen reduced the price to 16,000 US dollars. So I think people in Europe were looking at that. They're like, that's the same car as here. And in Europe, it's 40,000 euros. That's ridiculous. And so 44,000 US dollars. China, $16,000, same car. What the hell? Well, that's the difference between manufacturing them in China versus manufacturing them in Europe, unfortunately. However, ID3 is going to struggle to sell because people are going to see the price of this thing and they're going to go, wow, why not just buy one of these? It's ridiculous. What's going on? Well, Dacia has brought down the price of its EVs for German buyers, and I'm going to guess that if you're from another country in Europe, just go across to Germany and buy one from there. They've brought down the price by 10,000 euros or 11,000 US dollars at current exchange rates, and this price apparently will last for a few months. They're going to keep the prices at this range for a few months. Who knows? They could even for longer than that. That's an incredible discount. Tony Seba said that EVs would cost around $5,000 in 2030. Now, these are the kind of EVs he was talking about. And what he said, people have been saying he's insane, that's ridiculous. But the reality is, EVs like this, you can get them already today for around 6,000 or 7,000 euros in China. So not that much has to change for him to actually be correct. When you consider the fact that the Dacia Spring costs around 22,750 euros or just under $25,000, they've essentially halved the price. Basically halved the price of this electric car. This isn't the first time Dacia buyers have benefited from a massive discount. It's the largest though. There was a discount, a so-called environmental bonus of around 10,700 US dollars, I think last year. So Dacia does this from time to time. They offer these kinds of deals for several months. Amazing. I mean, what an incredible, spectacular deal this truly is. I'd be tempted to buy two at these prices. So what are you actually getting for your $12,000? Well, it has a 26.8 kilowatt hour battery pack. You could buy one of these just to use as that's the same size as two Tesla Powerwall batteries put together. You can buy one of these and literally run your home on it. That's a kind of an idea anyway. However, they're also very light. They only weigh 2,204 pounds. That's amazing. I mean, that's like 1,000 kilograms, which means the range is pretty decent. 143 miles of range, which is 230 kilometers. I mean, 230 kilometer range electric car for $12,000. Not in China, by the way. This is Europe. Further enhancing its appeal, says Car Scoops, is the fact that it boasts extended maintenance intervals of 30,000 kilometers. So you only have to service one of these every 19,000 miles. It comes with an 8-year battery warranty or 120,000 kilometers. That's a bit lower than other EVs like Teslas and BYDs, 160,000 kilometers for those, 100,000 miles for them. But anyway, it has a guaranteed minimum charging capacity after 8 years of 75%. So they're saying after 8 years of ownership, if your battery doesn't go above 75% of what its original capacity was, they'll give you a new battery pack or a new car, whichever's probably easier just to give you a new car. That's kind of cool as well. This is made in China. It's made by Dongfeng. And I actually did buy an EV from China made by Dongfeng. I had it here in Australia. It was illegal for me to drive on the roads. I only did it. I never drove it on the roads, I promise. Kind of. Anyway, it was a good car. I was amazed how good the thing was. I paid, I think it was about 5,000 US dollars for it at auction. It came from an auction from, I think, a company that went bankrupt here in Australia that were testing this car. They were testing some other Chinese EVs. It was in left-hand drive. But anyway, the thing was fantastic. I got it and I thought, this is really a good car. You know what it turns out? A lot of the parts in that Dongfeng EV were the same exact parts that come in a Mercedes-Benz EQA 250. Identical. I was thinking, hang on a minute. I swear I've seen the interior of this car somewhere else. Sure enough, it was from Mercedes. Now, it wasn't identical, but it was quite similar. Anyhow, as a result of its low price, Dacia has sold a lot of them. In fact, they've sold 30,000 over the past 2 years in Germany alone. Now, there is one drawback for this car. It has a 1-star safety rating. That crash test was performed in 2021. But it's still probably a lot safer than a bicycle. I mean, a lot of the electric bikes cost about that much. So it's worth considering. Dacia's latest electric bonus comes shortly after the German government decided to discontinue its EV subsidy program. Facing a budget crisis, Germany's screwed. It's like Japan. Germany is in big trouble. Their economy relies on the automotive industry. Volkswagen Group, what are they firing? 11,000 people. A lot of the automotive industry is moving from Germany to China. It's inevitable. So, the budget's not adding up. I mean, there's not enough tax revenue now for the German government, so the country has scrapped its EV incentives. Now, the EV incentives were around 5,000 US dollars. So what that would mean is that this vehicle in the past would cost you around 17,000 US dollars just normally. Anyhow, because that's been scrapped, there was also an additional $2,500 incentive. So actually, if you put those two incentives together, you would have saved $7,500. That was the average amount consumers in Germany was saving 7,500 euros, meaning, yeah, normal price for this EV in Europe was around, in Germany, was around 15,000 euros. But now they're 12,000. So, heck, I think they're going to sell incredibly well. Will this last? Well, I don't know, but it's going to last for at least until the third month, the end of the third month of the year. So you're looking at 3 months from today. How many will they sell between now and then? I don't know, but a hell of a lot, I think, anyway. Isn't it weird that Dacia, which is obviously not a Chinese brand, I mean, yes, the vehicles are made in China, but it's not a Chinese brand. Isn't it weird that they can do this? Why can they pull this off? Well, how is it that they can sell affordable Chinese EVs when they're not even a Chinese company? How can they do it? And why is it Chinese companies aren't succeeding at this? I mean, MG is the only company succeeding at selling an affordable Chinese vehicle, but even that's not cheap. It's not cheap like this is. Why are there no other Chinese companies doing it yet in Germany? In Europe, for example, they're sort of selling EVs, but they're selling them at much higher prices. I think it's only a matter of time before we see an onslaught of affordable, cheap EVs coming from actual Chinese car brands in Europe. Just hasn't happened yet. Thanks for watching.